Hey you guys, we need to talk about what's going on with Todd and JUILE Chrisley right now. Like, they just got out of prison 2 months ago, and instead of popping bottles and living their best lives, they're saying life on the outside is actually rougher than prison. I did not have that on my 2025 bingo card. So let's break down what they've said, what's really going on behind the scenes, and how the Chrisleys are struggling with the freedom they fought so hard for. And trust me, it's not what you'd expect. So let's rewind for a second, because before we talk about how the Chrisleys are adjusting to life on the outside, we need to talk about why they went behind bars in the first place, because this wasn't some tiny tax mistake. This was full-blown fraud, and it shook reality TV fans to their core. Back in 2023, Todd and JUILE Chrisley were convicted of bank fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy to defraud the United States. And those charges weren't just for show. We're talking millions in false loans, forged documents, and dodging the IRS like it was a game. Except, spoiler alert, the government doesn't play games. The trial lasted weeks, and every day brought more drama. We're talking testimony from former employees, alleged cover-ups, and even emails that prosecutors claim showed Todd Chrisley coaching people to lie. It wasn't just messy, it was scandalous. And the wildest part, Todd and JUILE kept insisting they were innocent. Through it all, they maintained that they were victims of someone else's scheme, claiming a former business partner set them up. But the jury, they didn't buy it. After hearing all the evidence, they convicted them both. Todd was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. JUILE got 7 years. And y'all, this was after years of watching them flaunt their luxury lifestyle on Chrisley Knows Best. The designer clothes, the massive Georgia mansion, the Range Rovers, the sarcasm, the sass, it all came crashing down in that courtroom. By the time they reported to prison in early 2023, fans were shook. People went from watching them argue about throw pillows on USA Network to seeing mugshots circulating on TMZ. The transition was brutal. Now let's talk about what prison actually looked like for the Chrisleys, because no, they weren't sent to some celebrity-style country club. Todd was locked up at the federal prison Camp Pensacola in Florida, while JUILE reported to Federal Medical Center Lexington in Kentucky, which isn't exactly a spa retreat either. Todd's prison was known for being a low-security facility, but let's be real, low security doesn't mean easy. He was living in shared dorms, eating basic cafeteria food, working prison jobs, and had to follow strict routines. Gone were the days of private chefs and curated Instagram aesthetics. JUILE, on the other hand, had it even tougher. Her facility dealt with inmates who needed medical attention, and the emotional weight of being separated from her husband after over 25 years of marriage was heavy. She later revealed that adjusting to prison life meant literally breaking herself down mentally and emotionally. At one point, she said, "You have to let go of control completely, because if you try to live your old life from inside, it will break you. Let that sink in. It will break you." And they weren't just dealing with bland food and isolation. There were reports of deteriorating conditions, mold in the buildings, staff shortages, and freezing temperatures in winter months. This wasn't reality TV. This was reality, period. Yet through it all, Todd and JUILE stayed relatively quiet. No prison interviews, no viral letters, no leaks, just silence until now. But while Todd and JUILE were stuck behind bars, someone else in the Chrisley family was going full warrior mode, and that was their daughter, Savannah Chrisley. If there's one thing you can say about Savannah, it's that she does not quit. From the minute her parents were sentenced, Savannah launched a full-blown media campaign to get them out. She went on podcasts, made TV appearances, posted on social media, and even shared deeply emotional updates with fans about how hard it was to raise her younger siblings without her mom and dad around. And y'all, she wasn't just venting, she was organizing. She hired legal teams, filed appeals, and most shockingly, she lobbied for a presidential pardon. That's not something you just apply for online like a Costco card. That takes connections, political maneuvering, and actual influence. Fast forward to May 2025, and Savannah pulled off the impossible. Todd and JUILE were granted a presidential pardon, and both were released immediately. The internet went insane. Some people cheered, others rolled their eyes. But one thing's for sure, no one saw that coming. Suddenly, after more than 2 years behind bars, Todd and JUILE were home. Back in their house, back with their family. But here's the twist. Instead of celebrating and riding off into the reality TV sunset, they're now saying freedom feels worse than prison. So now let's get into why. So Todd and JUILE finally get home, presidential pardon secured, kids reunited, the media buzzing, and everyone's expecting fireworks. champagne, and maybe a return to the red carpet. But instead, they hop back on their podcast Chrisley Confessions, now rebranded as Chrisley Confessions 2.0, and say the most unexpected thing. Life is rougher than prison. Excuse me, what now? Y'all, this shook fans. It's not what you expect to hear from two people who just got released from federal prison after nearly 3 years. But Todd didn't stutter, and JUILE didn't disagree. In fact, she doubled down. JUILE explained that she's actually spoken with a few other women she did time with, women who have since been released as well, and they all kinda agreed, adjusting to life outside is weirdly harder than surviving prison. And before anyone starts yelling privilege, hold on, because this wasn't about missing free meals and not having to pay bills. It was about the psychological whiplash that comes from going from zero control to everything is on you again control. JUILE said it's like this invisible pressure is suddenly back on your shoulders. You go from this hyper-structured, emotionless, isolated system to being dropped right back into a world where expectations, responsibilities, noise, opinions, and bills hit you all at once. Like being dumped in a fast-moving river after floating in still water for 2 years. And Todd, he had this one line that stopped me cold. It's so horrific, the conditions that you're there for, but that's from a physical standpoint. From an emotional and psychological standpoint, it is harder dealing with day-to-day life now. Let's sit with that for a second. He's saying that the emotional pain of being free is worse than the physical discomfort of being in prison. And to be honest, it's not that hard to believe. When you're locked up, you know the rules, you know the schedule, you know exactly what's expected of you. There's no internet noise, no family drama, no overwhelming expectations. You just survive. But back in the real world, there are a million moving pieces, and you're expected to jump right back and like nothing happened. Todd said getting back into that routine, running a household, making decisions, being a husband and a father again, it's been crazy. And you know what's even more wild? Todd said he slept better in prison than he does at home now. He was like, I went to prison for 28 months and never had trouble sleeping. Now, I'm home and wide awake. And then, in classic Todd fashion, he threw some shade at his own family, saying, maybe because I wasn't fighting with everybody. The Chrisley clan, they're the ones who have kept me awake all these years. Tell us how you really feel, Todd. JUILE didn't exactly deny it either. She said she loves her children and her family, but being in prison kind of forced her to focus on herself for the first time ever. She wasn't worrying about running a household, answering emails, juggling schedules. She just had to survive and stay sane. And now that she's back, she's like, oh right, I'm responsible for everything again. You can hear the exhaustion in their voices. This isn't the bubbly, cheeky Chrisley family we saw on TV. This is raw. This is vulnerable. This is we might be free, but we're still figuring it all out. Let's talk about something JUILE said that hit real deep. She talked about how, in prison, someone told her this piece of advice. You can't live out there and in here at the same time because it will literally drive you crazy. And she said that's 100% true. The longer you're inside, the more you become emotionally detached from the outside world. It's a survival mechanism. You have to disconnect, or you'll lose your mind trying to keep up with your old life. But then when you do get out, you're expected to just reconnect, like flipping a switch. JUILE said she didn't even realize how much she'd changed until she was standing in her kitchen trying to make dinner and felt paralyzed by choice. Like, too many ingredients, too many decisions, too many normal things that used to be second nature but now feel overwhelming. That's trauma, y'all. That's what re-entry looks like for real people. And the Chrisleys, love them or hate them, are giving us a front row seat to what that really feels like. And here's the other part that makes their freedom feel complicated. It's not just about Todd and JUILE. It's about everyone else, too. When they were in prison, Savannah stepped up as the caretaker. She took custody of her younger siblings, held the family together, and basically became the adult in the room, all while running businesses and chasing a pardon. Now that her parents are home, there's this unspoken expectation that things will just snap back into place. But that's not how trauma works. That's not how time works. Todd even joked, kind of seriously, that his family has been more stressful than his actual prison time. And JUILE, she didn't laugh it off. She looked exhausted. That's the part of the story that's not getting enough attention. Yes, they're home. Yes, they were pardoned. But what happens after the credits roll? What happens when the door closes and you're sitting in a house full of people who've all been traumatized in different ways? That's the story the Chrisleys are starting to tell, and it's not the reality TV reboot fans expected. So, let's talk about JUILE for a second. Because while Todd's out here cracking jokes and throwing shade at his own family, JUILE's been quietly dropping truth bombs that are honestly shaking people to their core. In their podcast, JUILE opened up about something most former inmates don't like to talk about publicly, the bond she formed in prison. And it wasn't just casual, hey girl conversations over lunch. These were deep, emotionally intense friendships, the kind that are born out of shared struggle, grief, and the need to survive. She said she's still in contact with a few of the women she did time with. And not just texting, hope you're good, every few months. These are real conversations. Support, check-ins, shared trauma. JUILE said, we all have this general consensus that it's kind of weird to even say it, but life out here is rougher. Now think about that. Multiple women, all just released from federal prison, telling each other that the free world feels harder than prison life. And you know what that tells you? This isn't just about money, or headlines, or celebrity status. This is about the psychological toll of being isolated from the world, then being thrown back into it at full speed with no seatbelt. JUILE even described how prison forced her to rethink how she lived her life. Like, she had to let go of control, ego, even identity, because none of that matters when you're in a cell. No one cares who you are. You're just another number, another uniform. But the women she met inside, she said they were some of the strongest people she's ever known. And in a weird way, they made her stronger too. What's fascinating is that JUILE never saw herself going to prison. She was a Southern mom, a reality TV star, a homemaker who baked cookies on camera. The idea that she'd be serving time in a federal facility, surrounded by strangers? Unthinkable. And yet, that's exactly what happened. And the transformation was real. JUILE said that when she first arrived, people told her, you can't live both out there and in here. You've got to pick one, because trying to live both will break your mind. At first, she didn't believe it. She thought she could stay connected to her family, manage things from behind bars, hold on to her identity. But over time, she realized that kind of thinking, that's exactly what breaks you. That's what causes emotional collapse. So she stopped. She gave in. She surrendered to the routine, the rules, the lack of control. And in doing that, she said she found a strange kind of clarity. She learned how to sit with her own thoughts, how to be okay with silence, how to release expectations. And that's not something you just forget the moment you get home. JUILE said she's struggling now because she can feel herself being pulled back into the chaos, the noise of family, the distractions of media, the endless responsibilities. But a part of her misses that forced stillness she had in prison, that unintentional peace. Let's get real here. Imagine going from being in a lockdown routine where someone else tells you when to eat, sleep, and shower, to suddenly being thrown into a world where you're expected to run everything again. The calendar, the house, the meals, the laundry, the errands, the family drama, the media noise, and oh yeah, your own emotions, which haven't exactly been dealt with in years. JUILE said coming home felt like walking into a hurricane. Not because people weren't happy to see her, but because nothing had slowed down. The world had kept spinning, and now she was expected to jump on the moving treadmill like she'd never missed a beat. She called it crazy, not in a funny haha way, but in an overwhelming, disorienting, how do I do this again kind of way. And she's not the only one. Todd admitted that part of what's making things so hard is the emotional intensity of being around his entire family again after so much isolation. He said that in prison, he slept like a baby. Now, he's wide awake at night, reliving arguments, worrying about responsibilities, and trying to adjust to a world that doesn't feel quite right anymore. And again, this isn't about missing the food or the schedule. It's about mental overstimulation. Too many choices, too many responsibilities, too many people asking too many questions. One thing both Todd and JUILE agreed on in their podcast is this: the world still sees them as characters, as TV personalities, as the glossy, sarcastic, fashion-obsessed couple from Chrisley Knows Best. But that's not who they are anymore. Prison stripped all of that away, and coming home hasn't brought it back. Not yet. JUILE said people still expect her to smile, pose for photos, be the perfect mom, the Southern belle, the reality queen. But inside, she's still processing trauma. She's still trying to sleep, still adjusting to noise, still wondering what parts of herself she left behind. And Todd, he said straight up, we've changed. Maybe for the better, maybe not, but we're not the same people you saw on TV. It's one thing to get out of prison. It's another thing entirely to reintroduce yourself to the world after you've been broken down and rebuilt in silence. So when fans ask, when is the next season of Chrisley Knows Best? The answer might just be, you wouldn't recognize us anyway. So here's the thing no one talks about when someone gets released from prison. Home doesn't feel like home right away. For Todd and JUILE Chrisley, their return to that big, beautiful Southern estate didn't come with champagne toasts and a 5-star meal. It came with stress, confusion, and a whole lot of what now. They've said on Chrisley Confessions 2.0 that rediscovering their normal routine is, in a word, chaotic. Things that used to be simple, like running errands, making a meal, or even choosing what time to go to bed, now feel overwhelming. Why? Because for nearly 3 years, their entire day was decided for them. There were no choices in prison, no decisions, just a bell ringing and you doing what you were told. Now, at home, they're back in charge, but it doesn't feel empowering. It feels paralyzing. JUILE even admitted that managing their home again feels like starting from scratch. She used the word crazy again, not to be dramatic, but to be honest. She explained that during prison, she lived only in her own head. And now she has to juggle everyone else's needs again. Kids, finances, schedules, emotions, all of it. She has to relearn how to share space, how to lead a household, and how to not completely lose herself in the process.